Here at Lady Farmer, we talk about so many different aspects of slow and sustainable living, a subject matter that can at times feel confusing, overwhelming, even misleading. And that's why a few years ago, we set out to write a book that might be a guide for those seeking a life of beauty, simplicity, and sustainability.
We're thrilled to be able to offer you our own small guide for cultivating slow living, sustainable simplicity close to home. Available in our online marketplace. In the book, we've woven an easy-to-digest narrative of stories, recipes, tips, resources, ideas, and reflection. This collection of essays and resources will guide you to think about your own relationship to the planet, what you eat, what you wear, and how you live a sustainable lifestyle. It also contains a 21-day slow living challenge of daily thought exercises to lead you in the process.
For you Good Dirt listeners, we are offering free shipping of this wonderful little book with the code TheGoodDirt in our online marketplace. So use the code TheGoodDirt, TheGoodDirt at checkout when you go to purchase your copy of the Lady Farmer Guide to Slow Living in our online marketplace for free shipping. That's The Good Dirt at the Lady Farmer online marketplace for free shipping on the Lady Farmer Guide to Slow Living. We hope you enjoy it.
Thanks, everybody.
You're listening to the Good Dirt Podcast. This is a place where we dig into the nitty-gritty of sustainable living through food, fashion, and lifestyle.
And we're your hosts, Mary and Emma Kingsley, the mother and daughter founder team of Lady Farmer. We're sowing seeds of slow living through our community platform, events, and online marketplace.
We started this podcast as a means to share the wealth of information and quality conversations that we're having in our world as we dream up and deliver ways for each of us to live into the new paradigm, one that is regenerative, balanced, and whole.
We want to put the microphone in front of the voices that need to be heard the most right now. The farmers, the dreamers, the designers, and the doers.
So come cultivate a better world with us. We're so glad you're here. Now, let's dig in.
Hello, everyone, and Mom.
Hello.
We are recording this episode, part 2 of our Intro to Slow Living series for anyone who is newer to the concept of slow living and sustainable living and might not know exactly where to start. So if you are just finding us, just joining us, a great place to start would be episode 1, part 1 of this Intro to Slow Living series. So this is part 2. The first part, we talked about what is slow living. That was a fun one. And today we're talking about common obstacles and common challenges that come up around slow living. And we, of course, do not claim to have all of the answers. All of this is so individualized based on your own life and your own value system and the ways that you're able to go about things. But we do have lots of ideas and helpful tools to approach any obstacles you have around wanting to live slower, but maybe feeling like for various reasons you cannot.
Yes.
So,
and I want to add here that we never want to minimize another person's circumstances. Everybody has their own things, their own situations. So we're just here to hopefully help you think, observe, offer insight, hopefully some helpful suggestions, maybe not. So anyway, that's just a way of saying wherever you are, you're doing great. If you're even curious about this topic, you're already making progress. So just congratulate yourself and give yourself some grace for even pondering it. Okay? So,
yes, that's a great point.
right.
And gosh, just like anything else, it's like, I want to be able to do X better. I want to do more of X. It's so immediately associated with the feeling of shame or guilt that you're not already doing it or that you haven't been doing it.
Or something else to check off or
yeah,
more shoulds.
Right. And as much as we can say this isn't about that, I know that's really hard to really internalize,
Yeah.
but truly it isn't. Think of it like a fun experiment or a fun project that you can chip away at. And it's an ever-evolving journey. So, that being said, just a quick recap of part 1, if you listened. And if you haven't listened yet, we definitely recommend going back and listening to the whole episode. The place to start with approaching obstacles and challenges to slow living is to remind yourself what it is you're actually trying to achieve. So the name slow living, it can be a little bit misleading because it doesn't necessarily mean slow as in speed or not a lot going on. And we get more into that in part 1. But at the distilled all the way down, very simplified, slow living to us is really a mindset and a way to be present in the moment and a way to engage with your life and your environment in a more present way. And there's so many great ways to do that. So, what are some ways, Mom, that we have either experienced ourselves or that folks have brought up to us that might keep someone from slow living or being more present, being more, quote unquote, sustainable?
Okay, I think what we're going to say today probably overlaps a lot with what we said in part 1 and what we say all the time, actually. That's because, it always kind of comes back to the same things, but it's just really helpful to look at it from different angles all the time. So I think the first thing to say about what is an obstacle, is that people almost kind of laugh at the notion, like slow living. I'm just way too busy. My life is not slow. And again, we talk about this a lot in the first part of this series. So being too busy. And you spoke to that just now, saying it's not about speed. And what we like to remind people is it's about observing and thinking and actually decision making. That's where it begins. It begins by noticing, first of all. Some of you might even have come to this podcast because you have this feeling, I need to slow down in my life. How can I do that? So you come here. So that's where it begins, noticing and thinking. So yes, we're all busy. Who is not busy? Have you talked to anyone lately that says, "Oh, I'm not busy. I don't have many things to do"? Who says that? No one.
It's a myth. Or how about I'll do that when I'm less busy. Things will calm down here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Just after this, it'll be
let me just get
busy.
through fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, you can kick that can down the road your whole life.
Totally.
Like, just let me get through school. Let me get through the wedding. Let's get the kids in school. Let's get the kids in kindergarten, or let's get the kids in college. Then we'll be empty nesters. Let's retire. All of that. So how do we deal with the busyness of life right now?
Yeah. Well, a big obstacle would be, again, our brain goes to places immediately. And an obvious answer might be, well, just take things off your plate, take things off your schedule. And that is where I think we get into, well, I can't. And that may or may not be true. So that is a place to start, right? Is there anything you could take off your plate? Sure. But if you really can't, which many times there's not an easy way to do that, that's what we want to talk about. Where it's not about physically taking things off your calendar. It's about tiny micro decisions in the moment about how you spend your time. And this might bleed into, how you occupy that space in your brain that worries about things or is anxious about things, totally related to slow living. So for someone who personally has experienced a busy schedule at all times, I have found that when I need to slow down, even though if I can't take a commitment or an event or a work project off my plate, there are always going to be in between times, no matter what, there is always a slight window of when you decide to go to bed, when you decide to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And I have learned over the years and through doing this slow living project with you, Mom, that you can actually opt for a different, really it's a mindset, but it's also a way of doing something. So for example, if I have a brief window of time I need to eat something before I'm out the door to go somewhere like maybe tutoring or another commitment that I have in the evening, and I notice it's a really pretty day outside, I might might not be slow and sustainable. I might microwave leftovers for dinner, but I might take them outside, even on my front step, and sit, even if it's not for a long time, and eat my leftover microwave dinner outside and without my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example of, no, I didn't have time to cook a nice, gorgeous dinner. I'm rushing around. I'm doing all these things, but I do have 15 minutes to eat. And how can I make the most presence of that 15 minutes? And how do I prioritize that instead of standing over the counter and shoveling something in my face while I look at my phone or, something. And that sort of decision making takes a little bit of awareness and a little bit of weighing options. And that's kind of what just takes practice. So that's my example of, if you can't literally make more space in your schedule, you can create the feeling of more space and time by choosing something different.
Yeah, that's a good one. And while you were talking, I thought of something too. You were talking about how you might not be able to take something off your schedule, but you can recognize those little breaks and moments for what they are. So if you have 10 minutes, 20 minutes between something, yes, you could decide, put the phone down, go be in the sunshine, go look out a window of your office building at a view and just take the time to breathe. And here's another one. Say you've had a busy day and you have a busy day the next day, but you do eventually get to go to bed, hopefully. If not, then okay, there are other things going on, but hopefully you're going to get to bed. And I have noticed it's really helpful to say, today was today, tomorrow is tomorrow. Right now, I get to get into bed and go to sleep or read or whatever it is. This relish the moment that you do have, which is more of what you're saying. And again, to your point, to do that, you have to notice and you have to choose. And you're not doing any less. Your day was busy. Tomorrow's going to be busy, but you seized the gaps between. You noticed and you embraced a slow living moment. Hopefully a few of them strung together. This is how you do it. And this grows, this expands throughout your day.
Yes, definitely. And this is making me think about another topic that comes up a lot. It's around convenience.
Oh, yeah.
So that is a huge obstacle to slow living because sometimes it's really inconvenient, or it seems like it's really inconvenient. And the Lady Farmer approach to this and our general thinking about this is that, of course, it takes time, like all slow living things do. But I think the way around this is that you create habits and systems for yourself, for your own life, that creates that convenience for you. So, for example, I don't use paper towels in the kitchen. And at first, if you're used to using paper towels in the kitchen, that's really inconvenient. You just get used to using paper towels. And taking away your paper towels is like, wow, why would I do that? That's like so much laundry, kind of gross, whatever. But I've created a very simple little system for myself of like, here's the bag with my dirties. That's a big thing for me, is like having a place for things.
Yes.
Here's a bag for my dirty cloths. I know I'm going to throw them in the wash, with my weekly towels and dish towels load. And then, I know that it takes me approximately 15 minutes to fold it all, and I can watch an episode of X. And then I put them back in this drawer when they're clean. I don't know. It's like this routine that's built in, and like, no, that didn't happen right away when I stopped using paper towels, but it's not inconvenient anymore because I made it work.
Yes, I'm thinking of another example. Might seem kind of random, but we talked to a young mom about this on a previous podcast.
Jamila Edwards.
Oh, yeah. We were talking to Jamila Edwards about this, about the idea of convenience. We had a great conversation about that if you want to go back and listen. And she has young kids. And she was saying how she made the decision in her house that they were not going to have individually wrapped snacks. And she told her kids this, and they were disappointed because they were attached to some things that come in the individually wrapped packages. And boy, those are convenient. Think about school lunches and after school snacks and kids being hungry all the time, and how great it is just to reach in and grab that little bag of pretzels or those little individually packed bags of nuts and all those things that are out there now. Hand them to the kids and everybody's happy, right? So anyway, she made the decision she wasn't going to do that because of the waste. And she broke the news and they did it and they made the transition. So I think that's such a great example because, okay, what would you do instead of that? What would you put in the kids' lunches? Think of all the things that have their own individually wrapped packaging that come in nature, like, a banana, an apple, a carrot, all these things that they're convenient, they're nutritious, it's real food, it's slow food, it's whole food. But you have to think about that and you have to be willing to make that transition. I've told this story before about how the family from Holland that moved into our neighborhood in the 90s. And she would pack her kids' lunches with things like, whole peppers or whole cucumbers.
Yeah, and the American kids might have cucumbers, but they'd be like sliced and put in a Ziploc bag.
Yes, with a little plastic thing of ranch dressing or something. So,
actually, when you think about it, it's way more convenient. Just throw a cucumber in
absolutely.
the lunchbox, then
That's
cut
the
it up
point.
and put it in a plastic bag.
That's the point. Like, why do we do these things? Why do we adopt these habits and mentalities? To me, it seems like when you observe these things, it just seems like we're not thinking things through, really. We're just accepting the way things are. And you see these things in the store. They're marketed to us as convenient. And so we go for it without really thinking it through.
Back to my paper towel example, too. You know what's really inconvenient? Running out of paper towels.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. I mean, you can apply that to anything. And to the lunch thing, in containers and transport, there's so many great options for reusable lunch things with compartments. And
oh, yeah,
that's way more of a thing now than when we were kids in school. So yeah, it's kind of fun. And of course, then that can seem like, oh, I've got to buy stuff then to like be sustainable. Sure, maybe sometimes creating your own convenience means setting up tools and systems for yourself that will require you to buy a few things. Doesn't have to. Humans are very creative problem solvers. I'm sure you probably already have something that serves that purpose. But I will say this process of figuring out these systems for yourself that will work, they're fun. And it does take some trial and error and patience. It might not work. I've never really gotten super good at the bringing my own containers to the grocery store thing. I just haven't gotten great at that. But I just forgo the plastic baggie at the produce section if I need to. You don't need the plastic bag at the produce. You can just put the veggies in your thing and they can scan it. It's fine. So all that to say, create your own convenience, I guess. Make it work for you. And yeah, maybe that part's inconvenient, like thinking about a new system. But like I said, it's fun, it's creative, and it really totally pays off in the end. And then you don't even notice it.
Yes. And what you're touching on here is another, what I would call obstacle that people get into, is somehow they think slow living is expensive or it's going to cost them more money. And you touched on it a little bit when you think, oh, well, I'm going to be sustainable, so I have to go buy all this sustainable stuff. So we're just here to tell you that no, that's not necessary either. You might want to buy some things, some well-chosen items, storage containers, or possibly cloth shopping bags, possibly, or there are all kinds of things you might want to consider buying. But no, you don't have to like sit down and get this whole list of sustainability supplies. There's so much in your house already. You just have to slow down enough to think about it, observe, see what you've got, be creative. And yeah, it is fun. It is fun to figure this stuff out. Now, I don't have little kids, but I would think it would be fun to figure it out with the kids and talk to them about it. And like with Jamila, we'll need to follow up with Jamila and see how it went with the snack decision and what they ended up doing instead and how her kids feel about it now. I'd like to ask her about that. But I mean, we're opening up a whole new world for ourselves and for our kids and for the whole next generation. Because guess what? It's not really an option. We've got to open up a whole new world. We've got to figure out how to do this differently.
And I think that takes slowing down and time to think about it and recognizing the issues and what's really not working takes noticing. So that sort of in a very circular way goes back to that is slow living. And if you're able to do that, then you're able to slow down and maybe think about a solution. And again, it's not about should and guilt and do this because it's better for the planet. It's about how can you honestly save money, create less trash because that doesn't feel great to anyone and is a lot of work. And ultimately, quote unquote, save time because you're in the present moment and you can experience more of it.
Okay, so one more thing I'd like to touch on. If you are out there and you just feel overwhelmed, like you're just trying to get through every day. Maybe you're a single mom, or maybe you're overwhelmed with your job. Maybe you're both. Anyway, whatever your circumstances are that you just feel like all of this is really beyond you, does not apply to you because you are just too overwhelmed. So we would just encourage you then to look for one thing, just one thing in your day that you can pause and shift to a better feeling place. We talked about this with Stephanie O'Day in our first interview with her, and we'll link these episodes in the show notes. How the shift in your day can be the tiniest thing. It can be something that you shift at work. It can be something you shift with your kids. For instance, it's all you can do to get home from work and get the kids fed and get them in bed, however old your kids are. This is just an example. To shift that from that feeling of overwhelm, just open that up a little bit and think of one little thing you can do to put a little breather in your evening, to put a little sharing time with the kids, to appreciate a moment. Let's look out the window, kids. Let's see what we can see in the night sky tonight. Take 45 seconds. These are just random ideas that are coming into my head. And if your kids are older, something I really enjoyed doing with my teenagers was invite them for a walk. And, younger kids are going to love this, to go for a walk, however short or long. Older kids, it might be a little eye-rolly, but if you can get them to go with you, it's a wonderful opportunity to slow down for yourself, to interact with a child no matter what age, to observe your surroundings. to breathe, to move around. Or maybe you really need that time for yourself. Maybe you really need that 10-minute walk for yourself. Make some plans to be able to get away by yourself, out in the neighborhood, outside, breathing air, slowing down for yourself. It's about really just focusing in on what is making you feel not great throughout the day and what can you do about it. We talk about permaculture a lot on this program, and one of the principles of permaculture is the problem is the solution. And I just love that so much because it guides you to doing exactly what we're talking about. We're looking at something, we're thinking about it, we're observing it, and we're finding a way to shift it right there. And permaculture is not only about agriculture and growing things and gardening. Permaculture is about life and systems and relationships and families and all these things that make up our existence here in this world. So, what do you think, Emma?
I agree. I think that's a great place to leave us
for today.
Yeah. We'd love to hear your thoughts, how you have found moments of slow in a busy schedule. If you're someone who feels like you are able to do slow living and yet your life isn't slow, I'd love to hear from you and how you do it.
Yes.
If you feel like you have created your own systems of convenience that make some things that might seem inconvenient more convenient for you, we'd love to hear about that too. Yeah, and if you're feeling really, really stuck and you don't know how to move forward in this, remember to pause for just a moment and breathe outside if you can, and just open up the possibilities to new ideas and new things to try in the name of slowing down, which is so good for all of us.
Yes.
It's good dirt.
It's good dirt. And so I thought next time, Emma, what do you think about this? When we come back in part 3, we might dig a little more into the consumer side of slow living. What do you think?
Yes. Love that idea.
Okay. So stay tuned to part 3 of our Introduction to Slow Living series.
Yes. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in, calling in, and spreading the good dirt. We love hearing from you. You can reach our listener voicemail at 443-459-1950. That's 443-459-1950. You can find this number in our show notes and in our Instagram profile.
This show is produced by Lady Farmer, a slow living lifestyle community, and the original music is composed and performed by John Kingsley.
For more from Lady Farmer, follow us on Instagram at We Are Lady Farmer. That's We Are Lady Farmer. Or join us online at www.ladyfarmer.com. We'll see you next time on The Good Dirt.
Goodbye.